What's up guys, welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/TalesForRetail. This story is called 0 to 100 in 5 seconds. Okay, so not exactly retail, but it is a customer service sales environment, so I hope this fits here. This happened almost a year ago, so some details may be fuzzy, but I didn't want to post it at the time in case this somehow made it to my boss, but I no longer work there. This is going to be a long one, just a heads up. I am an automotive service advisor for a new car dealership. If you don't know what that is, I'm the person you talk to when you bring your vehicle in for service or repairs. I still am an advisor, but I just work at a different dealership now. So one day, the general manager comes up to me and asks me to book an appointment for Crazy Customer to check for a fluid leak. This specific customer never brought his car in for service, but I knew the name because the last time he was in, he caused a lot of grief, but I was not the advisor, so I couldn't tell you what was wrong with his car at the time. So I booked him in for the soonest availability, which was in 3 weeks at 9:30 a.m. We didn't normally book that far in advance, but we were abnormally busy at the time. The day of his appointment, it was my week to open the dealership, which meant I had to check the night key drop box. There were 3 envelopes in there, including Crazy Customers. I immediately wrote up his repair order and put it in the queue to dispatch, which was at about 7:35 a.m. Now, even though his appointment wasn't until 9:30, it was assigned to a technician, one of our top techs, mind you, right away so we could get this out of the way ASAP. So the tech ended up having to remove the engine and transmission in order to locate the leak. Knowing this was a sensitive customer, I decided to give him a phone call to let him know we were working on it before I left for my lunch at about 11:15 a.m. I thankfully got his voicemail, so I explained on the voicemail what was going on and that I would call again once we located the leak. At about 2:30 p.m., the technician condemned a leaky seal at the transmission and ordered a replacement part. Unfortunately, because the vehicle was dismantled, we could not give the vehicle back to the customer. The GM knew what was going on and told me to tell Crazy Customer that we had a loaner vehicle available if he needed one. So I call the customer.
Hello?
Hi, can I speak with name, please?
That's me.
Hi, this is my name at dealership. He cuts me off. I had to move the phone away from my ear.
You guys are freaking idiots, you know that? All day to find a goddamn leak? I've never dealt with such an incompetent group of people in my life.
I wish I was exaggerating this, but I'm not. Being a service advisor is not an easy job. You are held to unrealistic expectations by customers, and many customers try to bully you into free work. I could go on and on about how awful people are in this industry, so I always told myself, there will be one customer that I will tell off. This was it. Me actually yelling,
"You need to calm down and treat me with respect if you want any more help. Nothing gives you the right to speak to me like this."
Anyone who knows me will tell you that I am a pretty mild-mannered person and that I never raise my voice to people, so this was highly out of character for me, but I think he deserved it. He continued to yell at me, so I hung up. I was at the desk alone and sad that my coworker didn't get to witness this, so I had to page the service manager to come see me as we weren't allowed to leave the desk unattended. I explained to the service manager exactly what happened. Thankfully, service manager is a very level-headed, awesome manager, so he didn't give me much grief over how I handled the situation. However, he said I could have delivered a strong message without yelling back at him. The service manager went to see general manager right away to let him know exactly what happened. About 10 minutes later, general manager came and asked if I was okay. I was awesome, to be honest. I was on such a high from telling a customer off and not getting in trouble for it, and I told him exactly that. I could see that general manager was stressed over the situation, said the same thing that service manager did, but did not reprimand me for my actions. Service manager then went in his office to call Crazy Customer. Service manager had this giant window for his office, so I had a clear view of him. So I watched as service manager began to talk, and then his eyes went wide and had to move the phone away from his ear. Unlike myself, service manager remained quiet while Crazy Customer flipped out. After a few minutes, service manager began to talk, and he was on the phone for roughly 20 minutes. When service manager was done, he didn't go into much detail about the conversation, but did have a few unflattering words to describe describe this person. He then told me and my colleague, who is now back and briefed on the situation, that crazy customer was not permitted to speak to anyone in the dealership except for himself or the general manager. He was still offered a loaner vehicle while we waited for the part, which floored me. I couldn't believe they wanted to accommodate him, but never ended up picking it up. Fast forward 1 week. We got the part in, the tech performed the repair and reassembled the vehicle. He took it for a 20-minute test drive and then put it back on the hoist to monitor for further leaks. It leaked again within half an hour. Back to the drawing board. After another hour of diagnostic, the tech decided to replace the transmission. So when we get a new transmission from the manufacturer, the part is called a Riemann transmission or remanufactured. The transmission is completely new, but they reuse the casing because it's less wasteful and cheaper. All of the moving components on the inside are 100% new. There is no wear on the casing. Because this would appear on his invoice, service manager called crazy customer to explain this to him. This was a huge problem. Huge. The business manager, who is also the dealer principal or owner's daughter and is a super sweet person, had to get involved, which she never gets involved. Service manager called crazy customer with business manager in his office and had him on the speakerphone. But business manager spoke to crazy customer and crazy customer insulted service manager multiple times. The look on service manager's face was kind of priceless. So we ended up having to get approval to order a whole new transmission, which we somehow got. Because the manufacturer had to build a new transmission from new, it took about a month to get the part in. We finally get the part in, but we aren't able to have it replaced right away because the technician was on another large job he had to finish first. The day we are anticipating to start the repair, crazy customer shows up out of nowhere at the dealership. I had never seen this man in my life, so he comes to the desk and I greet him in a friendly manner, like I do with all my customers. He gives me the spiel to save the fakeness and demanded for the invoices for his vehicle. I knew exactly who he was at that point. I printed out the original one, which had the date from a month ago. He demanded that I change the date to today's date, but I tried to explain that I could not do that. I could tell he was about to blow up at me, and my colleague paged service manager to the counter. Thankfully, he appeared very quickly and took the situation over. I grabbed my phone and texted both the general manager and the business manager that crazy customer was at the service desk, now starting to raise his voice and it was echoing through the showroom. General manager and business manager showed up within a minute of me texting them, and the dealer principal happened to be there too. The three of them brought crazy customer outside and service manager came to get the keys for his vehicle. Service manager pulled the vehicle to the front of the dealership and handed the keys. Crazy customer blew up at the four of them. I don't think I've ever seen a person's face get so red. Crazy customer eventually left and service manager came and told us that crazy customer was banned from the dealership and we were not to serve him, and we were encouraged to call the police if he stepped foot on the property. Over the course of 2 weeks, service manager, general manager, business manager, and dealership principal received several emails from crazy customer asking when he could get the repair done. His emails were so weird. If you didn't know the story, you'd have no idea this guy was told he was banned. They, for the most part, ignored his emails, but dealership principal wrote up an official letter stating that he was no longer welcome to the dealership and that he would be trespassing for coming onto the property. Fast forward 2 weeks later, and we get a phone call from another dealership in the next city over. I didn't think anything of it because sometimes we help each other with mutual clients. When the advisor that called said his name, it took so much self-control not to burst out laughing. I briefed them on what he had done so far and told him we had a transmission for crazy customer's vehicle if they wanted to take it from us, which they did. I told him best of luck and didn't hear of it since, which is too bad because I would have loved to hear what happened. Man, some people need to do some yoga or something. Ease. This story is called, So You Doing the Simplest Job Wrong Is My Fault Somehow. This story is from a bit of a way back when the original Xbox was released. I was working at a large-scale toy store and we had been doing a pre-order for the Xbox. $50 down payment and you had one reserved for you on the release date. You could buy one outright on release day as well. We sold the Xbox in 2 ways, by itself and in a bundle package with 3 games, an extra controller, and a travel bag. Both options could be pre-ordered or bought on the day of release. I was put in charge of organizing and running the release event at the store. To make the checkouts as easy and quick as possible, I made 2 UPC sheets, one with the UPCs you needed to scan for the bundle package, or or the console by itself if you were picking up a pre-order, and one for non-pre-orders. I even made sure these sheets were color-coded and had big headers on the top of the sheets. The pre-order UPCs were on a red sheet, the non-pre-orders were on a green sheet. I tried to make this as idiot-proof as I possibly could. The electronics department had 2 registers, and I was assigned 2 people to cover them. We'll call them Richard and Peggy. I would be working support, grabbing items, pulling consoles, suggesting upsells, answering questions, handling problems, etc. I ran Peggy and Richard through a battery of dummy sales to make sure they knew what to do with the transactions. If they were ringing out a pre-order, either scan the pre-order slip if the customer had it, or look up the info and then scan the appropriate UPCs on the red sheet. If it was not a pre-order, scan the UPCs on the green sheet. Everything looked good. We opened and the flood started. It was a rush, but at the same time was exciting. I was making upsells left and right, talking about different games, doing demos, explaining different add-ons, grabbing controllers, grabbing games, showing the bag from the bundle package. Like I said, busy but exciting. By about noon, the rush had died down. I moved Richard back onto the floor while Peggy stayed on the second register. She had injured her leg, so she was on that register with the understanding that it was a position where she would need to do the least moving. I checked a couple of reports and saw we had sold over 2,500 consoles so far that day. I had a customer come up and ask how much the bundle package would be without the travel bag. I started crunching the numbers in my head, figuring that the bundle was $600 before tax and the travel bag was $40, so that would make the bundle, it would be about $510. Peggy suddenly chimed in. The customer thanks us for the info and leaves, but that doesn't sound right to me. I pull some paper and start crunching the numbers. I came up with $560. I double-checked the prices in my calculations. They are accurate. I ran some dummy transactions to confirm the numbers. It came out to be $560. I'm starting to get an ugly pit in my stomach. I page Richard and meet him at the entrance to the department. I ask him which sheet he had used to ring out an Xbox that wasn't a pre-order pickup. He immediately answered saying the green sheet. He then confirms that he used the red sheet for the pre-orders. I go to Peggy and ask her what sheet she had used to ring out the customers if they were buying a bundle package. Notice I didn't mention if they were a pre-order or not. She points to the red sheet. I ask what UPC she was scanning if someone bought a console by itself. She points to the UPC on the red sheet for the console by itself. What if they're picking up a pre-order console? I ask. She again points at the same UPC. What if they are picking up a bundle pack that wasn't a pre-order? I ask. The pit in my stomach is hurting now. She points to the column of UPCs for the bundle on the red sheet. The horror is setting in. I page the manager and ask him to meet me at the office. Peggy asks what's wrong, and I point to the heading on the red sheet that reads, "For pre-order pickup" at it. She realized what I just laid out and immediately starts begging me not to tell management. Yeah, no, I am not taking the rap for you failing to follow simple instructions. The manager and I head into the office and I explain what I just figured out. We start pulling reports and realize with horror how bad it actually was. The store had something like 750 pre-order records, and we had recorded over 1,500 pre-order pickups. We've just figured out that we've lost upwards of $40,000. Well, short of the long, we did more looking and found those extra pre-orders had been wrung out by Peggy. She was fired. 4 months later, the company did a reorg and my position was eliminated, so I was laid off. I was planning to attend a trade school later in the year and I saw the local department store was hiring. So I figured work there for 6 months and head to school afterwards. So I drop an app, get hired as an assistant department supervisor, and go to orientation. The store is actually prepping for a remodel, so they're doing a mass orientation of like 60 or 70 people. I'm talking to people and introducing myself when suddenly I hear a woman shout, "You're the SOB that got me fired at..." toy store name. This led to a fun little conversation with the store and HR manager. I don't know what they did with Peggy, but I never saw her again. Oh my gosh, imagine screwing up that bad. $40,000. How do you mess up that bad? I would cry or something, die, both at the same time. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.